Yesterday had an abnormally long uh, live stream for 6 hours. I won't do that again. Um, Also, the debates are on. I'm actually watching it live, but um, I really have no interest in it. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn it down just a smidge so I don't get copyrighted for it. But I am curious how many of you are watching the vice president debates. I honestly don't have a very strong interest in either of these clowns. I think, regardless of which side you're on, I don't think either one's particularly excited about either of these VP choices. People that most people have never heard of, unless they live in the places where these people are public servants. I'm actually drinking a little bit of iced coffee just to stay up. But again, I'm not making this a 6 hour event again, nor five, not nor four. That was a rare occurrence, fueled by iced coffee and trying to see if I can actually outpace all the comments that I was like 30 minutes behind in the live stream yesterday. But whether I can do that today, we'll see. But I'm not going to be on for that long. So, like I said, watching the current vice president presidential debates. We can talk about it more tomorrow in the live stream tomorrow after debates are over. People have done their punditry and made their political analyses of who won and who made the strongest points and yada yada yada. However, there's been some other current events going on too, so that's why if you see the if you click on the title, it's going to say you know the VP debates and other current events because a lot has gone on today. The actor from Good Times who played the father, Amos, he died today. I think he was 85 years old. He had to be old because Good Times came out in the 70s when he was well into his 20s, early 30s. I can't even tell how old he was in that show. In the show, he looks like he's in his 40s, but in the 70s, that's probably just someone in their early 30s or late 20s. Also, an attorney has came forth in the Diddy case representing his victims, and now there are 120 victims in Diddy's investigation. 120, 60 of them men, 60 of them women. 120, and evenly split between men and women. But this is where it gets worse. There's also three minors involved: 9, 14, and 15. Why is a 9-year old one of the victims in this case? A 9-year old. Who in the hell had that person in proximity to anything that Diddy was doing? That's crazy. What else went on today? Also, so besides losing John Amos, we lost Chris Christopherson. I didn't know he was a Army Ranger. And he started off before he was an actor. I think he also started off as a musician prior to being an actor. So people may have seen him in movies like The Matrix and what's the movie? He's played a few bad guys. I think he was in a Steven Seagal movie playing a bad guy and some others, bunch of other things. He comes off as a very nice bad guy, a, a nasty good guy, but a nice bad guy. Go figure. And on the meanwhile, former President Jimmy Carter turned 100 today. And just to put a cherry on top, well, not a cherry because this wasn't a good thing, but on top of the vice presidential debate, which is currently on right now, it started at 9 o'clock, and all the build up to that over, during the course of the day. Besides that happening, while I was at the gym, I found out that Iran attacked Israel with like 200 missiles, like bombastic missiles. And now Israel's saying they're going to retaliate, and America is currently, well, the American government is currently deliberating on what they're going to do as well. So now we're looking into that war becoming wider. What started off between Hamas and Israel over the Gaza Strip spread to Lebanon and Iran, not to mention on the coast of, I guess, Yemen with the Houthi pirates who are backed by Iran. So, and some people are going to correct me and say it's Iran, not Iran. I don't care. I don't care. Um, so we're looking at a war that's engulfing the entire Middle East, and I've warned people, some of my some of the people I know who travel, not a place to go right now, and they're like, oh, that's just between Israel and the Palestinian people. Like, no, it's spreading all over. And I know I have a bunch of hard-headed people saying, well, I'm still going to Dubai because that has nothing to do with Dubai. All right, well, right now it doesn't, but we'll see. Savaji P says hi. What's up, Savaji? Also, we see more stuff building up on the border, on the southern U.S. border. So, and they literally just mentioned that on the debates. We see more tension building up at the U.S. Mexican border. So, um, guys, is yeah. So there's a lot going on. So, like I said, we can get into all that stuff. Like we can talk about the debate that's currently going on as we speak, and talk about these celebrities whom we've lost, uh, or former President Jimmy Carter reaching his centennial birthday. Um, we can talk about the Diddy case becoming much more severe. At this point, his case is much worse than R. Kelly's, much worse. And I mean, like, there's now a lawyer representing 120 victims of Diddy. 120, 60 men, 60 women, three of them minors. The youngest of the minors being 9 years old. Nine. And again, the Middle East is turning into a situation where it may become a global conflict. Iran threw hundreds of bombastic missiles at Israel today. Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel said they're going to make them pay for it, and the White House is currently deliberating on what sort of countermeasures they're going to do as well. And Iran is not backing down. They're saying this is just the beginning. They said the missiles are just the beginning. So, and again, things are heating up at the U.S. Mexican border, as they're currently talking about in the debate. So, guys, what's really going on? A lot of stuff going on today. And I'm like, so like I'm at the gym, hit, you know, doing some strength training, and then we did a little cardio, and I'm seeing all this stuff plastered all over the TVs because they'll have on like, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, uh, the local channels, and all the stuff is all over there. But if I can't get any engaging comment from from like people who aren't trolls, I'll just end this early. I'm looking at Tim Maltz. I can't take him seriously. He's like a Timu version of Bernie Sanders. Like you order Bernie, you get Tim Waltz. I don't really know what's happening on Ohio. Adrian M says, "How do you feel about what's happening in Ohio?" I really don't know because the accounts are conflicting. There are people saying the Haitians are doing this and that there, but a lot of that stuff they're claiming um, I, hasn't been verified. I think what we are seeing, if anything, is that some of those Haitian immigrants are definitely like um, killing wildlife for food, and that's still weird because first of all, some wildlife are federally protected animals, and two, even if they aren't, it would be weird to walk around the suburbs and seeing someone kill wildlife and eat them. Like that's different. Like someone tried to, say something about that yesterday, and it's like, yeah, I can see that happening like in the forest, in the fields, and the streams, but you're living like in the suburbs or in the city. It's very off-putting to see someone like hunting and harvesting like regular wildlife. And as far as it being pets, I think that's happened, but it has been far and few in between. It's mostly been wildlife. I think what it is that people just feel probably uncomfortable with a bunch of illegal immigrants living next door to them, and they weren't asked if this, as much as people hate HOAs, this is why HOAs exist. If you live in an HOA, they're not going to just let HOA is not going to let people just be randomly put in your community like that. So, I mean, in defense of HOAs, this is some of the things they prevent. By the way, to anyone asking, can they get a shout out? Put it in the super chat. If you want a shout out, if you want me to shout out some sports team or your username or whatever, put it in the super chat. That's the only way I'm going to even consider it. Mary Undoer of Not says, "Do you cause happiness wherever you go?" I can't cause happiness. Happiness is a state of mind. So, whatever people's feelings are, I can't cause them. That's up to them. But, guys, like I said, so all of those issues are on the table, which we can discuss. And if not, again, I'll move on. And I'm going to do a late night run to get all this food I just finished eating off, to digest. But uh, yeah, like I said, we're watching a debate. I'm currently watching it simulcasted on YouTube. How you doing, Abigail? What's going on? Oh, but back to Mary Undoer of Knots, if you're still here, ma'am. Um, I don't cause happiness, but I would like to think that things I do would lead to people feeling happy. But again, I can't cause it. But I would like to think if I smile at someone, like if I'm at the gym and I walk by and I acknowledge someone else, give them a nod, a smile, or whatever, that makes them happy. I will hope. If someone asks me, "Hey, can you spot me?" and I spot them, or no, even better than spotting them is I'm working a set, like say on a bench press or something, and a random person in the gym, like right next to me, this actually happened the other day, was like, "Hey, can I try that?" I'm like, "All right, yeah, go ahead." So, he came in and pressed the weight. He got it up once. He didn't get up the second time, but he was like, "All right." He's like, "Thanks, man." He said, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get some more the next time. But I mean, we put it up, so I guess he didn't want to do it because we were up, well above 200 pounds. Which I mean, I think he's probably could have still lifted it because what we were putting up when he attempted it was 200, but we went above that just a little bit, well, yeah, just a little bit above that. Um, but yeah, and and the bar is 25 pounds. But yeah, or if I give someone advice sometimes on here, I hope it makes them happy. Like one guy was literally in my stream and he, was telling me, "Hey man, do you remember me? I broke up with my girlfriend. Well, she broke up with him because she didn't like the fact that he was selling his business and he made a few mil off of selling his business and she disagreed with it, so she left him. And that was his, first girl, his first love. So he was devastated. I was like, dude, forget about her. Go to the gym, pump some iron. You'll be good and you'll probably find someone better. And, he's come back, said, "Hey, you were completely right." He said, "I'm in the gym every day." He said, "Y'all more fit." He's like, I feel happy. So that that was cool to know that, the advice I gave someone worked out for him. So just to answer Mary Undura of Knots. Abigail says, "I'm new." I know, I haven't seen you here before. That's why I was asking, how are you? Because you're a new, I was going to say a new face, but I should say a new commenter here. Adrian says, "How do you feel about the 2025 bill?" Are you talking about Project 2025? If you're talking about Project 2025, I honestly don't know what to think about it because, again, I'm going to be honest, unlike most people, I haven't read all 600 pages of that. I've only got the highlights that they've shown on the news, but almost no one has read it. So everyone flipping out about it, I think it's a bit unreasonable because it's a 600 excuse me, it's about a 600 page um, plan that that some people from the Heritage Foundation put together. Some of these people from the Heritage Foundation were part of Trump's former administration, but now they work for the Heritage Foundation, and they put together this Project 2025 plan, sort of as an end goal for Trump to complete in his presidency. But he himself doesn't go along with everything in that plan. And again, like I said, I don't think most people have even read it because it's like 600 pages. No one's reading that. That's like reading the entire Vanity Fair novel, which, by the way, I have read. But yeah, that's like reading the entire. So like how everyone like who has like a bookshelf and has like all these lofty novels on their bookshelf, most of which they never read, but it just looks good to have it on their on their bookshelves, like Vanity Fair, Pride and Prejudice, um, A Tale of Two Cities, stuff like that. Um, and like they, Vanity Fair is like 600 pages, maybe, Anna Karenina. That class, like people haven't read these books, but they want to have hold strong opinions on them. Same thing with the Project 2025. People holding strong opinions on something and they don't really know what it's actually about. From the highlights of it, some of the stuff in it, yeah, I'm not for some of that stuff. Some of the stuff I am for. So I don't have one co- cohesive view over it overall. And I don't think it has any chance of it being meted out by Trump's administration if he gets reelected, to be honest. Even if he wanted to do all those things in it, he still has to contend with the the legislature and the judiciary. So um, Big Dipper 620 says, "Why are you watching it?" Actually, yeah, I know the debate is very boring, and I don't care about either guy here. I just have it on because that's what's currently been talked about all day long, outside of the other events that I just mentioned. But I'm not really paying attention to it. That's why I'm like live streaming and talking to you guys because I'm more interested in talking to you folks than paying attention to what hillbilly billionaire and wannabe Bernie Sanders are talking about. What I would be more interested in seeing as far as the debates would be a debate for all the third party candidates, all the independents and third party candidates. I want to see them do a debate like they did last time. Um, I think in 2020 they did it, or it was 2016. They had a panel debate with all the third party candidates. That was way more interesting than usually the vice president debates are the most boring of them all. So not just this one, but usually from from most presidential debates I can remember, the VP debates have always excuse me have always been the most boring. But maybe you guys know of some that were actually like interesting. I don't. um, but yeah, but there's a lot of other stuff going on this that I find more worrying, like the Israel Iran thing. Abigail says, "What's going on?" So Abigail said, like I said, well, first of all, I'm chilling, doing my live stream. I usually do one every evening. It's a normal for me. So I hope you do return. Even if you don't agree with me, I hope you return. Even just to say I don't agree with you, that's fine. I don't expect my audience to agree with me on things. Um, I can't speak for other people, but I can get along with people whom I disagree with. And that's probably comes from my academic background in philosophy, where almost everyone disagrees on everything. So it's like it teaches you a sort of intellectual humility and a way of getting along with people who have a diversity of viewpoints. Something that I think I wish was more common in everyday life with people. Nowadays, people are so tribal about their beliefs, especially political beliefs, that people think unless you agree with their political beliefs or their social views, then you're an enemy. And just because people disagree with you, don't mean they're evil, right? So that's what I'm on. So regardless if you disagree with anything I talk about in this stream or in the future stream, I hope you keep coming back. And that goes out to everyone else currently in the stream too, guys. Like if you disagree with me on anything, please tell me you disagree. But keep coming back because I like being able to talk with people who disagree with me. It makes me sharper being able to reason with people who have different viewpoints. And sometimes I do change my mind. Like people will, I've had that in a number of streams where people have pointed out something and I realize, oh yeah, well you actually have a good point. So I like that. I learn by being shown where when I'm wrong. On the other hand, I also sharpen my reasoning tools when I can when I can debate people in a rational manner. Um, but yeah, that's it. And like I said, there's so many things going on today in current events. That's why I just wanted to. I couldn't address just one thing because I could have just made it about the debates. But then so much happened from the time, excuse me, from this afternoon until this evening when I left the gym. I'm like, I just want to touch on all those things. Vector says, "Hey, bro, what's up, Vector?" The fallen angel says, "Is that Diddy?" No, sir. I am not in prison, and I'm not a billionaire, and I don't diddle people. Sean Diddy Combs says, "I'm free." Well, Jim H says, "Diddy knows your mama." I think you're projecting, Jim. Fallen Angel says, "Why so much baby oil?" Yeah, well, I think that's gonna come up in court. Is obviously it was for diabolical means. There's I cannot see someone buying 1,000 bottles of baby oil for anything other than sinister means. It's hard to it's like I said in yesterday's stream. It's hard to imagine having 1,000 bottles of anything for good reasons other than water. Water is something you might want to store. Say if you plan on like keep storing water for like a possible bug in scenario where you have to bug in because of some sort of crisis, whether it's a weather crisis or whatever. So, other than storing water, I don't see storing 1,000 bottles of anything. Other, like I said, other than water and food. Maybe maybe propane. So maybe propane. Like if you have backup generators, that's another thing you could probably store. Like maybe 1,000 bottles of something would be like propane because you have backup generators. Or yeah, yeah, propane or kerosene or um, something like that. Um, Adrian says, in your opinion, do you feel inflation is becoming a big issue? Has that affected your area? Well, those are two questions, two good ones. And honestly, I'm not an economist, so I can't really say is it become. I think for most people, inflation is a big issue. Like food has become more expensive, gas is more expensive, the like cost of living is more expensive in the last 4 years since the pandemic. It's an issue. Has it affected my area? Definitely. I mean, Maryland already is an expensive state in which to live because of high taxes, like property taxes, income taxes. Um, Maryland's like fairly expensive to live, like most blue states, but it has become worse since like food is more expensive. Meanwhile, they've dropped how much people receive through like um, uh, you know nutrition and food supplement programs, supplemental nutrition and food uh, programs. The SNAP programs or EBT, food stamps, whatever. Like, and not to harp on the immigrant thing again, but when you see people who are illegal immigrants with EBT cards, first of all, why are they receiving benefits that should go to citizens? Two, I'll grant you, okay, they still need to eat, whatever, cool. But why are we seeing people with EBT cards who are illegal immigrants with like $10,000 worth of food, like like food on it, and 5,000 in cash assistance on it? That's crazy. Meanwhile, your disabled aunt is like has seen her food stamps reduced to like $45 a month. Like, how is she supposed to survive on $45 a month? And these people who legal aren't even legal immigrants are being flushed with cash and food resources. Not to mention they're housed in hotels and stuff like that. That's so. I know that kind of went off on a tangent, Adrian, but just to say yes, if I think inflation is a big issue and it's definitely affected Maryland. So Ahmad Ali says free Diddy, y'all. No, I don't say free Diddy. What I'll say is he should be afforded due process, like every person, in which he is being afforded due process, and let the chips fall where they may. But when you have 120 victims coming forward, I don't know about that. By the way, Ahmad, we both had the same first name. No, no, was back. What's up? He said could just run with a bunch of executive orders. True. I mean, the last three presidents have ruled mostly by executive orders. It's so hard to push law through right now that basically you have the executive branch, which is doing everything through executive orders. Like the office of president is basically only thing it can do is govern through executive orders, which is bad because once they leave office, then all of that can be rescinded and all that's changed again under the current president, who will then do his executive orders and so on ad infinitum. And then you have the judiciary making decisions on on legislative issues where it shouldn't be the coming down to the judiciary making decisions on legislative issues. It should be the legislature making those decisions. The system is kind of it's it's not broken, but it's not working. It's not working well. I've actually did a YouTube short. I don't know if you saw it, where I actually suggested that a really radical thing we could do, but what could also be very practical at the same time, would be we start electing people through a lottery system like they did in ancient Greece in the classical Greek period, particularly between 300 and 500 BCE. Um, the people of Athens uh, elected their leaders through a lottery system. Now, of course, not everyone could participate. Like women were completely not allowed in politics, so of course we would have to correct that. And foreigners weren't allowed either. Again, we would have to correct that because it's not just they were like when they say foreign, it's not they that they were just illegal immigrants. It's just they weren't Greek. So might want to fix that. And then of course slaves couldn't. Well, we've already rectified that. And people convicted of crimes couldn't. So, but outside of those things, which can be modified in today's world, um, a lottery system for elected officials wouldn't be bad. I know another problem someone had was they told me, well, wouldn't that end up having a lot of unqualified people in office? I mean, oh, like you mean now? I was like, what would be the difference? There are a lot of unqualified people in office today. The only difference now, the only difference with this lottery system for elected officials would mean that now holding office would be a civic duty, just the way like go, serving on serving serving on a in a jury is a civic duty. Now we will add to not only serving on a jury, but possibly being elected to office being a civic duty. I mean, not the worst thing that could happen. And again, there are already unqualified people. Plus, it would make a representative government actually more representative, because right now we have an oligarchy, ruled. We have people who are we're ruled by the powerful and rich. That's not very representative of most of the country. And we have a gerontocracy. Most of Congress should be in retirement. They are not only baby boomers, they are of the silent generation. people of the silent generation are well into 70s and 80s and 90s. Like, they shouldn't be still in office making decisions on people who still have to live with the decisions these old people make, who won't be around to see the folly of their decisions. So, again, it would be very radical, but it would be very practical as well to have an elected, uh, uh, an elector, well, an elective system where it's lottery based. I know that would never fly, but it was just me spitballing an idea because I love talk. I love uh, ancient Greek history. So anyway, the fallen angel says, "Damn, Diddy's a yapper." I don't know why I keep going with this Diddy stuff, but whatever. Nono says, "I've never seen a VP debate." Well, you should watch this current one. This isn't the most exciting one to watch, though. I'm just telling you right now, it's probably not the best one to watch. But at least you'll see more articulate politicians, but they're not very charismatic. Neither one of them are very charismatic. Phil says, "Por favor, vote for Kamala so you can pay my bills. Gracias." That is diabolical, Phil. That is diabolical. And you, I get the joke, but let's not smear Mexicans because first of all, the Mexicans aren't the main ones coming over the border right now. These are people from other countries in Latin America coming over the border. And some of them aren't even from Latin America. They're coming from the Caribbean and they're coming from East Asia. So it's not even the Mexicans. If you actually look at the numbers, it has been more Mexicans actually returning from America back to Mexico across the border than Mexicans going across the border to America over the last few years. So you look those stats up, unless that has changed. But when I had last looked at it, the the numbers were showing more Mexicans actually repatriating back to Mexico. So TJ says, uh, well, I don't know if he's trying to be facetious or not, but he says, "Assalamu alaikum, my brother Wagwan." Um, I don't know if you're being genuine or not, sir. Mm. Gypsy Jenna says, "You're so right. I'm 49. The moment you disagree with someone these days, they just delete you, Mr. 90s." Right? Like, when did it become where people have to agree with you, or they're your, or they're your enemy? We disagreed all the time on stuff. It is. It may be a generational thing, especially like I said. This is why some of these higher institutions are failing their students. When you're teaching them it's okay to have safe spaces, and that during a college lecture that professors have to give trigger warnings, and you have activists, student activists telling people that if you disagree with them, then you're promoting violence upon their group. That is ridiculous. Like, this is why, like I said, I think logic should be a required course in both grade school and college. It should be a required course. Like, usually most colleges, like, they require you to have some math and some sort of lab science, which I totally agree with, by the way, as well as like some sort of professional professional writing class. All three of those things I completely agree with. But I also think uh, logic should be required as well. Formal logic, and they can break it down. It could be for the course, half of it could be formal logic, and the other half could be informal logic. That way, you learn both the symbolic reasoning skills which is more akin to math, and you learn the informal reasoning skills, which are more akin um, to perhaps grammar or whatever, but it teaches both of them combined give you critical thinking skills, which will will work to your advantage in any given space, any given intellectual space, not just in college, but at work and making decisions at home when it comes to like your purse or political decisions. So it would be pretty indispensable, but I think there may be some people in government that have a vested interest in people not being able to think critically. That's just my own suspicious thoughts. All right, fallen angel, you're getting booted. Gypsy Genesis seems like the nicest guy in the world. By the way, thank you. Well, I do like. I will warn you. I do get spicy, but that's usually because trolls will pick with me, and I believe in firing back the same energy that they give me. So, you may see me from time to time when here it gets spicy, but that's only because people try me and they don't realize I will spit back at them the same venom that they try to spew here. But other than that, I'm mad chill. If you know any of the regulars, any of the regulars on my screen can tell you I'm pretty chill. I just go hard at like trolls, but other than that, I try to keep it positive. No face, no cases. Who is more dangerous? A person that cares or a person that doesn't? I think it's a false dichotomy because a person can care too much or care too little. A person that doesn't care, who's indifferent, can be the objective person. It depends on what you mean. So I wouldn't know how to answer that. Who's But if it's just between those two choices, um, if it's only between those choices and there's no nuance in between that I just specified, I would say the person that doesn't, depending on given what, given the proper context in which you would place that. Gypsy says generators run off propane. I thought they ran off gas. Yeah, propane gas. So, and you have different ones. You also have solar generators. So for my home in the Philippines, I want to get us a solar generator because it also will give, with the solar generators, you can get the panels in which they would fuel them, and you can store these solar generators without there being any risk of them causing health issues being stored in the basement, like with propane stuff like that. But yeah, there's propane generators. I look into that because that can be an alternative. Like for some people, they might want to have maybe both a solar generators or and propane generators. But if I'm gonna choose between the two, I'm gonna get solar generators because dealing with the our house in the Philippines doesn't have a basement, so I don't want to store propane in a place where it can cause problems. So I'd rather get a solar generator, and the panels that you get as part of the being connected with excuse me, being connected with the solar generators. Let me get something from my throat. Sorry. Yeah, but the like the solar panels and stuff, it will also give you like offset some taxes as well. So that's really good. So something to definitely look into. But I think there are several different types of backup generators. But like I said, the ones I'm most familiar with are propane and solar. And of the two, I would prefer solar. BSK says, "What's up? What's going on, BSK?" If people don't know who BSK is, that stands for batshit crazy. I just don't like saying it. Gypsy Genesis, cool. Western Maryland is gorgeous. Yeah, I've been out to places in Western Maryland, like Accident, Maryland, and I remember we went to a ski lodge out there. Wait, was it Western Maryland or the Poconos? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if we were in the Poconos or if we were in Western Maryland. No, I think it was Western Maryland. It wasn't the Poconos. For some reason, I'm thinking it was the Poconos. No, it was Western Maryland. Hey, Western Maryland is nice, but it's cold all year round, more or less. So, but that's why Maryland is such a diverse. For it to be a small state, it's very diverse. Like Western Maryland is in the mountains, so you got like the ski resort, like you have like the little ski resorts and stuff. Um, the bulk of people live within Central Maryland, like I do, which is like the Baltimore, Washington area. That's the the bulk of the populace of Maryland. Then you have Eastern Shore, where it's like kind of a temperate all year round, and you have some really expensive, like some really wealthy communities out on Eastern Shore. Then you have Southern Maryland, which is more affixed to like the Virginia Piedmont type culture. Uh, it's all right out there as well. But yeah, eh, you have a lot of different climates and cultures all throughout different parts of Maryland. I sound like a I sound like someone giving a tourist um, view of Maryland, which I'm not even fond of the state to be honest. But yeah, Western Maryland is cool. Much less crime than Central Maryland, for one. Um, so, and if people like that sort of colder weather, definitely a place to be. If you like it more temperate, Eastern Shores might be maybe more of your speed. Like places like uh, Worcester, Maryland, that's like Eastern Shore. Gus says, "Hey nephew." Tony says, "Anybody get food stamps for sale? If they do, don't say it on here because that's not legal. Don't do it on here." Um, Goshenker says, "Hello." RC says, "Sad. What? Why are you sad, RC?" Um, Gypsy says they even receive cash benefits as a single man. Mm, Let me get this troll out of here. Man, oh, I keep forgetting. Let me switch this chat filter to all messages. And let me scroll back up here to where I left off, if you guys don't mind. Um, Robin Atkins says, "I've never seen an immigrant with $10,000 on their food card." Well, Robin, you should definitely look this up either on Google or you can check whatever news outlets that you prefer. But it was definitely the case because luckily there was a clerk at, I think it was Walmart or whatever, took a this person's receipt. That's how we know it's real. Someone actually took a screenshot of it, and it was not edited. There was no there was no photo editing, no generative AI about it. This was a legit screenshot of someone's receipt. And we already know in certain cities across the country, they are bending over backwards to 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 do things for these illegal immigrants. Chicago, New York. This is not conjecture, and it's real. Someone showed a legit screenshot. Am I saying that all of them are receiving that? No, absolutely not. I'm not saying that. But if if even one person is getting it, that's a fucking travesty. Because again, they're receiving more benefits than a veteran who fought for this country or a disabled person who, through no fault of their own, can't can't support themselves, and they're reduced to like $45 a month on their food stamps. Meanwhile, this person has like 10,000 on their food stamps, not to mention 5,000 in cash assistance. If it's just one person, that's one person too many, as far as I'm concerned. Um, Gypsy says, you do realize they built the wall to lock us in with them, not keep them outright. Um, I'm not sure what you mean. Are you talking about the border walls? Because there's no consistent wall that goes all the way, that stretches across the Mexican American border, unfortunately. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that issue because then they would have to either be forced to be trying to climb over or dig under or go around by, boats and stuff. So, but no, it's quite open. It's very quite open spaces along the Mexican American border because there's a lot of American ranchers in those places where it's just open space between Mexico and the U.S. and these people come right across there every day. You can I mean you can ask people in Customs and Border Patrol, and they will admit this. Like they just see these people coming across, and they've been told like not to apprehend them. We saw this on 2020 last year. Literally on 2020, we saw these people sneaking onto this man's property with border patrol sitting there watching, and they were told to stand down. And these people weren't Mexican; they were Chinese, and they were getting information off TikTok telling them how to get to America across the border, and even showing them, even had ways to like get a Uber to where they had to go. Like they were literally coming right across the border, smiles on their face, while Border Patrol watched them sneaking onto this man's ranch and then order Ubers to take them where they had to go. This was on 2020. Uh, Gypsy says, get ready for the purge. The purge wouldn't work for so many reasons, but that's a subject for another day. Adrian says it was on the news about that amount. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, Adrian. Thanks. Robin says, internet, they were getting 5,000 on another card. Why would they be homeless? It's got to make sense. I wish it did make sense, man. We're not privy to the decisions that people in office make. Just as like I said, why my radical suggestion for improving American democracy would be to go back to the ancient Greece where they had a lottery system on how they pick elected officials. That would be great. Snapshot Sniper says, "What's up? What's up, Snapshot?" Adrian says, "I asked the previous question, by the way, because I started to see more homeless people and I thought I was the only one noticing." You're not the only one noticing. Have you seen San Francisco? San Francisco is ridiculous. They got like they have tent cities. Tent cities. They have some in Miami too. Now, one of the tent cities in Miami was because some of those people were uh, registered offenders and couldn't live anywhere else within the Miami-Dade County limits, so they were in these tents. But most of these homeless tents cities popping up across the country are not just registered offenders. Like these are people who can't work, people who can't find work, people who have mental health issues, people who are disabled. And surprisingly, there's a large amount of them that are starting to become women who can't support themselves because they they can't support themselves and their children on one income. That's happening more and more. You're seeing more women actually hit the streets as because they bought into this feminist thing of being strong, independent women, and uh, nuclear families are better for children. You have two primary caretakers with two incomes, two income earners. But when you're dependent on one income earner, and that person loses their job or they get sick or whatever, yeah. Snapshot says, I'm a bit concerned with the shoreline strike. Oh, that was another. Thank you, Snapshot Shopper. Excuse me, Snapshot Sniper. That was another issue I almost forgot about. The big strike going on right now, the shoreline strike. He said if it will be able to, if we will be able to get our food and stuff, or if prices will go up. Prices will definitely go up during the strike, more than likely, depending on how long the strike lasts. But yeah, that's another topic of the day I almost forgot. That's so many, like I said, so many issues that cropped up today on the news. It seemed like that was almost purposely so they could have stuff to discuss for the debates today. Gypsy says you should be growing your own food by now. But it depends where you live, Gypsy. So, I mean, for some people, if you live within city limits, you may not have the opportunity to grow your food. Now, maybe some people in their homes they could grow stuff through hydroponics, but again, not everyone will have the ability to hydroponically grow their own produce. And again, obviously, most people won't even have their own lawns to grow produce. That's unfortunately that's not a reality for everyone. I'm guessing you live somewhere where you have like plenty of green space, but not everyone does, unfortunately. And I'm not even talking about just poor people. I'm talking about middle class people too. Some of them don't have places that that are conducive to growing food, or they may not live in a climate that is conducive to producing harvest either. I mean, if you live somewhere like in Seattle, I don't know, or if you live in Maine, um, you live in Arizona, or you, so I don't know, but that's not a reality for everyone. Although yes, it would be nice if people could could live off their own produce that but also that's labor intensive. So not everyone has the time to even put into it as well. That's another issue that growing your own food can be labor intensive. Emiliano says, "What's up, bro? What's up, Emiliano?" Gypsy says, "I think shoreline strikes are awesome since everything in America is made in China." Not everything, but I mean, obviously, we are heavily dependent on them for a lot of our ex a lot of our imports, but that we've been weaning ourselves off of China slowly. But if we cut them completely, it could actually help our economy, maybe, de- depending on how it's done. The devil would be in the details. Eunice CHP says Israel or Hezbollah. Israel. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization that's being housed in Lebanon. Most Lebanese are not bad people. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization funded by Iran that is headquartered in Lebanon. That's not even a serious. That's not even a serious uh, contention. Robin says the thing is, we now have helped, but if Trump gets in there, let me reread that. The thing is is now we have helped, but if Trump gets in there, we will we will be no help. We will have no help. I'm guessing he's trying to say. Snapshot says we got some oranges, lemongrass, papaya. Oh, you must live somewhere. You must live somewhere nice. Snapshot if you can grow oranges, lemongrass, and papaya. That's not going to grow like in somewhere like Wisconsin. I don't think. um, Gypsy says I love lemongrass. What? So what does Nate? I've never seen what. So does lemongrass just look like like I'm sorry, like for better grass clippings, like does it just like look like lawn grass, like Kentucky grass to Kentucky bluegrass. Like I don't know, I actually don't know what lemongrass looks like before it's made into a spice. I'm guessing it looks like, I don't know, like Kentucky bluegrass, right? Which is the common grass people use for yards. Um, Izzy says, "Hey, what's up, Izzy?" Snapshot says, "Wife's Filipina." Well, so is my wife. He says, "I catch the fish." You still live? That's right. You. I remember this snapshot. Now I'm tracking now. You live over in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, right? Gypsy says can't grow fruit on these 36 acres because I'm in Washington County, North Carolina, largest black bear population. Just so you saying largest black bear population, I would not want to be there because I like to run, and I don't want to run in a community where I know I might end up coming next to a black bear. That's why when I was in at my family home, like my family's family home back in Virginia, in Rockfish, Virginia, out Nelson County, Virginia, way in the sticks where no one's probably ever heard of Rockfish, Virginia, outside of people who've actually lived in Rockfish, Virginia. Um, there's bears out there, and I was terrified every morning while I was out there when I was going to run for when I was out there for like 3 days for my grandfather's funeral because I kept wondering like will I encounter some bear on my morning runs. Luckily I didn't, but I did see tons of wildlife, but luckily I saw no bears. Snapshot Snipe says Florida. Oh, okay. I'm thinking I'm confusing you maybe with someone else. I thought, but I do remember you saying your wife was Filipina, but for some reason I thought you were also overseas. RC says, I don't think it's fair to say older elected officials shouldn't have jobs because of their age. Plenty of young politicians making horrible decisions. No, so RC, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying old people shouldn't hold office. That's not what I'm saying. When I'm talking about when I say there's a gerontocracy, which means governed by the elderly, is the fact that you really don't have a chance to have a seat in public office unless you are in your elder years. Like they these these people are already part of the oligarchy. They're wealthy and powerful, and for them, they think as they become older that it is their that it is not just a that it is their not just their privilege, but it is their right basically to hold public office in their elder years. Because hey, I'm rich and affluent, so of course, I should run for office, and that's a gerontocracy. I think we need to get rid of that. When you have people so old in office, they're suffering dementia and they're still making decisions for the rest of us. No, that's a problem. Like, what was it? Not Barbara Mikulski. The Dianne Feinstein. She'd have been. Why was she still in office? She should have been removed. Like, she's so old, she's suffering dementia. Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan in his final years in his second term as president, Nancy Reagan was making all the decisions for him. And we didn't know until after he left office that what was going on, that he had dementia. Same thing we see with Biden. Like they tried to hide this for 3 years, so it became just a Republican conspiracy that this man was suffering cognitive decline until we saw it before our very eyes on the debate stage. The man was nodding off, and we saw his cognitive decline in real time from the time he was a vivacious and cantankerous um, vice president under Obama who sometimes made verbal gaffes, but he was still like lucid, right? To where he's president, he's slow moving. He talks with a very in a very stilted manner. He makes very bad mistakes, not verbal gaffes. He was still making verbal gaffes, but he was also making factual factual errors that shouldn't be made. It's we don't want people who control our national security, to control our economy, that make the decisions on the laws of the land, being in a being in a mental fog. And the other problem with it is, it's not, you're saying it's not fair to them, but you look at it the other way around. Why should people at the end of their lives be making decisions that's going to affect the rest of our lives that we got to live with for the next 50 years, not to mention our children and their children? the the decisions, the decisions they make in law and government don't really affect them. They're at the end of their lives and they're already privileged anyway, so those decisions won't hurt them. But for the average person, it's going to hurt them because, one, we're younger, so we're going to live through these mistakes that they make, assuming they're mistakes, and so we're our children and their children, unless they get corrected. So that's unfair, that people who are both privileged and at the end of their lives get to make decisions for people who have to live through them. That's how I see it. But I'm not saying just because you're old, you shouldn't be able to hold office. That's not what I meant. I meant that we shouldn't have a gerontocracy, a government ruled only by a bunch of old ass people. And I'm sticking with that because if you look at governments across the world, they're not as old and decrepit as our U.S. Congress, nor our current president. Abba says, "Hello, my family is lying on me and adding truth. I am homeless now." Well, I don't know what to tell you, Abba. Um, Sierra says, "MAGA, Trump 24, get back to common sense." Um, um, Abba, you sound like you need professional help because I don't know what you're talking about. What you're saying is incoherent, so I'm not going to even bother repeating your second comment or nor the third. You need help or you're just a troll. Batshit crazy says term limits, no exception. The term limits would help, but I still think we need to stop this gerontocracy. Like I said, having people who are in their 80s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s making decisions on the general population, when the general population's average age is about, what, 40. No. It's a bad idea. Robin says, if you put a criminal in for a president, do you expect anything but crimes and criminal stuff? Well, the problem with that line of thinking, Robin, and I've pointed this out in a bunch of other live streams, and you might disagree with me. That's fine. Every president has been a criminal. Every president has been a criminal. Every president has been a criminal since the very first one, George Washington. This man made money as a real estate mogul while he was president off of land he took from after the end of the French and Indian Wars. He just took this land and was still actively being a real estate mogul while he was in office. He owned and sold slaves. Not only that, there was a law in Pennsylvania at the time, because of the Quakers, that said that, after a certain amount of time, slaves had to be freed on this Pennsylvania land. So what George Washington simply did was he took those slaves and transferred them to other land. Therefore, he wouldn't have to end up releasing them. Old Honest Abe was doing some crazy stuff. He brought in his own people to these electoral polls, to flood the polls with his own people to vote for him. He's you know he declared martial law during the Civil War, so that anyone who disagreed with the war would be locked up. And You know, I can name like countless examples from almost every president. Every president has been a criminal while in office. This is why they've always enjoyed partial immunity, because they've all committed crimes while in office. And if they didn't have the immunity, then during every presidential administration, uh, the people on the opposite sides of the aisle could use their crimes against them to, impeach them or indict them once they're out of office. But this is not a new thing under the sun when it comes to presidential politics. This is just something people are aware of now because they don't study American history. Um, Gypsy says, treat people how you want to be treated in the same way. I send back the same energy I met with. I hear that. Oh, yeah, I do believe you were diagnosed with schizophrenia because everything you're saying sounds like someone with a thought disorder. You're, everything you're saying on here sounds like something coming from someone who has probably disorganized schizophrenia. I think you need to seek professional help. You probably need to be on something strong right now to help with the mental confusion. And I'm not trying to be funny, guys. So if you guys are reading what Abba's saying, it's very, this is typical of someone with a thought disorder. I think people like this should not be just given a free license to be online where they can be a burden to others, as well as potentially put themselves at risk for for you know cyber crime and fraud, uh, well, identity theft, um, stuff like that. Like you probably need some Risperdal or something like that that you should be taking, or some lithium. You need to be on something. You need to be offline while you handle that. Anyway, Adrian says, how do you feel about the changes in the family structure over the years? Also, how do you feel the power struggles between men and women in today's society? That's very broad. First of all, those are two different questions, and those are very broad questions. And it doesn't really fit into the current context of this topic. Um, the changes in the family structure over the years, I mean, where do we start with that? Um, if you're talking about the nuclear family, whereas the nuclear family is an ideal family structure, it has never been the way most families have been throughout human civilization. There have been different sorts of family structures throughout the history of civilization, not just the nuclear family with the mom, the dad, and children. Although that has been an ideal family unit, it is not by far the most common. Not even in the heyday of the 50s, that was just amongst people who were in the Western world and had the privilege to live that sort of lifestyle with a nuclear family. Most families have been throughout history been either blended families or uh, or extended families, including grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, or blended families where you have, step parents and stepchildren, stuff like that. So that's been more common than the so-called nuclear family. But does the nuclear family have social advantages over those other types? Yes, they do. As far as power struggles between men and women, and that's just too broad of a question. I really can't answer that. You have to kind of like make, if you can restrict the scope of the question, I can answer it, but that's just too broad of a question. I'm sorry, Ab. I'm at the time you out right now. It's no, um, you know, I understand you're going through something right now, but it's kind of your erratic comments are kind of derailing the conversation. Mm. RC says, I'm not sad. It's sad U.S. citizens can't afford to eat and their benefits are getting cut. Oh, yeah, I agree, RC. Gypsy says, well, jokes on them. Everything in the grocery store is poison anyway. Yeah, there was just people talking about that recently, like how Europe has better like nutritional standards than here in America. Like they look at the stuff they feed us as like poison, like all the food additives and the dyes they add to our food. Like you're not gonna get the stuff that a lot of stuff we eat here. You're not gonna get over there, like the Skittles with all the dyed stuff. And even like so, like even like when I'm in Japan, like the candy they have doesn't have as high of a sugar content as it does here. This is why I emphasize to people, Gypsy, they need to stay fit because we can't always control everything that we eat, depending on depending on our geographic location and how much money we make and so forth. But what we can do, which is a good preventative medicine for all of us, is stay fit. All of us can benefit from that of every age, of every gender, of every social class. Everyone can benefit from staying fit. That is one of the very few things we can control, and I can't emphasize it enough. Plus, especially for men, but women as well, uh, physical fitness improves our mental fitness as well. So, being physically fit is such a great thing to do, not just to look good, but to feel good and to be healthy, and not only be healthy, but to stay healthy over the course of your life. As you get older, you should be making more of a priority to stay fit, and it's going to increase the quality of your lifestyle as you get older. So if you're feeling old and decrepit, you should still feel vivacious, assisted with some coffee. But yeah, so, unfortunately, there's a lot of poison that the FDA allows into our food, and sometimes we can't control it. What we can control is how much we eat and staying fit. So, Gypsy said you'd have to have a boat to escape USA. I believe they will finish the wall when they are about to start the show. Gypsy says I just saw a documentary that Border Patrol has highest suicide rate of any other profession. I wonder why. Why not just quit? I haven't heard that Border Patrol because a lot of people. Um, I can't say that. Um, I forgot what profession I heard about it was before, but there's a lot of it in social work. Well, actually, not. I can't say the suicide rate, but like mm, military. Back in the past, it used to be postal office. Post office must have been really bad. I don't hear those same stats about post offices back in the day, but remember in the '90s they talked that about postal office work, and that's where the term "going postal" came from back in the '90s because of the reports that a lot of people were having meltdowns working in the post office. I haven't heard about that recently though, but that used to be the thing back in the '90s and even early 2000s. Noah says, "What's up, Unc?" Um, Noah says, "Escape the U.S. to where? Escape to a worse country where you have less rights." No, bro. I don't. You sound like someone that doesn't travel. Anyone who travels that the, the lifestyles of an expatriate are so much better than living here. Unless you haven't traveled, I can't really describe it to you. But like particularly for black men, almost every black man has said everywhere they travel, they feel freer. Like they don't feel like they've been treated like the other in other countries. Like if they're being othered at all in other countries simply because they're American, but not because they're black. Um, we, we don't feel like we're under, like we're seen as potential criminals, that we're deviants and stuff like that when we're abroad in other countries. So much so that I've actually said in numerous occasions that every black, but if you never traveled, I can't really describe to you that, because traveling outside of the country, you realize the U.S. isn't the end all and be all. It's really not. Like we live much better lifestyles as expatriates in other countries, especially if you can work remotely or you have your own business or you're financially independent or you can live off your retirement in some of these countries with lower cost of living. The things that afflicts the locals don't pertain to us because we're expats. At the end of the day, we're still Americans. We're not the citizens of that country unless you apply to be part of that country, or you can strike, you can kind of mark the difference, like hit the difference by becoming a permanent resident, but still not being a citizen, but being like a permanent resident. That holds the the, the advantages of both being an American citizen while being someone amongst that other country. So if you're not a traveler, you won't understand. But a lot of people who've never left the country don't realize that America is not all that. Like people in Western Europe consider America a third world country. And I'm not even joking. Like you go to places like Finland and Denmark, they warn their citizens about taking vacations in America because of the high crime rate, the mass shootings, the poverty, and the racism. That is literally what they say over there. Gypsy says, "LOL, my BFF just ordered $191 worth of paper towels because they emptied all the shelves in VA again." Oh boy, people always do this. See, when people do that though, Gypsy, they actually cause the very market um, supermarket panics that people want to avoid, because when they start like um, doing that little frenzy shopping, then everyone else gets worried and say, "Oh shit, I better do this too," and it leads to a cascading effect where there's not enough merch for everyone, because everyone is like trying to hoard stuff in case of an emergency. I said he ordered off Amazon. My bad. Then everything I stands corrected. He said everyone. Gypsy says everyone can grow indoors. Again, it's a matter of space. Like not everyone has space in their homes for hydroponic growing of foods. But I get it. Just says grow lights even off a balcony. Lemongrass looks like a plant. Okay, that's I'm probably want to look at it because I'm thinking it looks like regular grass for some reason because I've never seen it before. It's cut and made into like spice and stuff. RC says, "Oh, okay, I misunderstood. No problem." Uh, K Hileki says hello. Are you Pacific Islander or from Hawaii? K Hileki. Dunjo says hello everyone. What's going on, Dunjo? Gypsy said that for decades. Why is every president geriatric? Exactly. Arturo says, "Hi CJ. I'm not the guy from your video game, so knock it out." um, Gypsy says every president was a Freemason. They found tons of children's bones buried under Ben Franklin's house. That's so. My father's a Freemason. There's nothing sinister about them. I actually told him I wanted to join, but I don't feel like it because the initiation fee itself is $200, and also I'm not religious, so you have to have some sort of religious underpinnings to join the Freemasonry folks. Except Catholic, the Catholics don't like. We won't get into that, but Catholics and the Freemasons have their long-standing feud. Pushing that aside, I, there's nothing really sinister about Freemasonry. Actually, they've been quite open about their beliefs and their initiation ceremonies and stuff like that, which they've shown on channels like the Discovery Channel, the Lodge. I think the Lodge in Washington D.C. actually showed their initiation ceremony for new members. It's it's not sinister at all. Were there some of the founding fathers Freemasons? Yes, not all of them. Not all of the every president has definitely not been a Freemason, and definitely not even all the founding fathers were, but some of them were, because that's why you see some Freemasonry symbolism in some of the architecture of the American government. We see it on the the U.S. dollar and stuff like that. Some Freemasonry symbolry, but it's nothing particular sinister. They're just a very large international fraternity. A lot of influential people join them because they want those social connections with other uh, affluent people, and it becomes sort of a brotherhood amongst people coming from all sorts of backgrounds. Whereas when it comes to like Greek fraternities, typically you're only joining these if you are someone who went on to higher education. But not everyone in the Freemasonry order has been someone who's gone on to higher education. So you have people from all walks of life within the Freemasonry order, which makes it more diverse. Um, also, and also you don't have to it's not like you have to do like a whole bunch of you don't have to join a line and pledge when you're a Freemason. Like you're not doing a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff like you do when you join a Greek organization when you on your local university campus, whichever one you go to. Because I also joined a fraternity. Well, actually, helped found a fraternity on my campus. Um, but um, yeah, you like there's nothing really sinister about Freemasonry. That's all I'll say. And like I said, they've been surprisingly quite open about their views, their initiation, the ceremonies they do. Like you can see this online. Like you can go to the Discovery Channel, or you can look it up here on YouTube, and you can see them actually doing the initiations. They don't do any sinister stuff like uh, deleting people or children or anything like that. I think that's a lot of rumor that started over the years because of the mystery behind them being a large international fraternity that's been around since like the European Enlightenment. Not and the fact that a very prominent people have joined those organizations over the years, from presidents to you know noblemen and stuff like that. But as far as secret societies go, they're not very secret. That's the problem. I mean, that's the thing about it. Now there are much more elite secret societies out there than the Freemasons. Like look at the what was it the Bilderberg group? Look at them. Or look at the fact that both George W. Bush and John Kerry were both part of the Skulls and Bones Society in Yale. Yale has these secret societies that are more elite than the Greek fraternities or the Freemasons, but people don't find that sinister. those those are like the real secret societies. Like these are people in Yale, and they have some at Harvard as well. These secret societies, which they only allow people to join if they're from like prominent, if they're like basically legacy students who have an important lineage, whether political or business wise, whatever. These are the people you need to worry about because they only allow these people to join them because they already have a lineage in some sort of elite background in politics or business or whatever. Anyway, Arturo says all you had to do was follow the damn train. I don't get the joke. Archie says I really wanted Andrew Gullum to run for president. I don't even know who that is, RC, to be honest. Was he a third party candidate at one point? I wish Andrew Yang ran again. You know, the funny thing is he won California over Kamala Harris last time. She couldn't even, like back in 2020, she couldn't even win her own state. A state where she was the US senator, where she was a former state's attorney, and she was a DA in the Bay Area. Couldn't even win it. Andrew Yang, who had no previous experience in politics, was just a, a, a entrepreneur. He won. So um, um, let me check the time. Oh, it's getting close to that time. I'm about to get off soon. Guys, I'll be right back. I'm just responding to the wifey here. All right, back. Gypsy says, please don't give advice on big pharma meds. Every mother in prison that killed her child was prescribed SSRIs. Risperdal is not an SSRI. It's an antipsychotic medicine. And the person who had to time out Gypsy, Abba Alexander, whatever, was clearly someone suffering from schizophrenia. She even said that she's been diagnosed with it, and it follows from what she was saying. She has a thought disorder. Um, Again, I'm not on those big conspiracy theories. There are uses for psychoactive medication because you can't do talk therapy with someone going through thought disorders. Obviously, they have thought disorders, so talk therapy is not going to be conducive to helping them. They need actual like psychopharmacological uh, treatment as well as possibly um, some sort of neurological interventions as well. But talk therapy isn't going to work for someone suffering um, from a, a schizophrenic uh, type disease. They need and SSRIs, will suggest selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, are a different class of drugs than Risperdal. That's the brand name, which is the actual medication is risperidone, which is a type of antipsychotic medication. They're not the same, nor is uh, nor is lithium. Gypsy says, please don't give medical advice to people when it comes to big pharma meds. Every mother they killed her. Oh, you repeated that. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm telling that person they need to seek psychological help because they shouldn't be online spewing their confused thoughts. Not to mention people who have psychological illnesses like Abbott does is can easily become a victim online to cybercrime and identity theft and other sorts of heinous things that people can do to people online. That's what I was saying to her, Gypsy. You clearly didn't understand the message I was giving her. Also, I was saying that she needs to, if she's not currently on medication, she needs to pursue that because she's not helping herself. And medication does help. Ask John, the famous mathematician John Nash. Well, actually, he died. He and his son both suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, and medication definitely helped him. The problem was with the medication, it hurted his mathematical research because the same place where he got his mathematical ideas are the same place where he suffered his paranoid delusions. So Gypsy says CIA has a weapon called the Voice of God. Look into the harp technology. Okay. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Gypsy says, "Well, your military for sure. Going postal is the same. We need it. We need to bring it back." I don't know. Going postal seems like it's played out now because we have other things we can talk about with people going instead of going postal. We should say, I don't know, going Kardashian or I don't know. Um, oh, what are those people that have these little meltdowns on like TikTok and stuff like that? Whatever that's called, that should be a word. That should be turned into a verb. Um, Gypsy says to Noah, um, I would go to Ireland to live with the Puffins, but they have an immigrant problem now. Also, I would choose Hungary or Poland, maybe Belgium. I really wouldn't live in Europe, but if I was, I don't know, maybe. Well, since I'm already married, I would choose France. But if I were single, I would not choose France. um, maybe France or Germany. As far as Western Europe is concerned, I wouldn't even think about the UK. Trash. No offense to my British followers though. I'm not saying they're trash. I'm saying the UK government and the fact that it's more the the problems we have in the US are just kind of multiplied in the UK is why I would not choose the UK. But if I was gonna say Western Europe, I would say probably France or Germany. If it was outside of Western Europe though, um, I don't know. I've heard Croatia is nice. Croatia is nice. I heard maybe Romania, but I'm not a huge fan of Europe. Like I said, outside of like France or Germany. Just he says, but I have a lifelong commitment to 66 cats. Six, God damn, six. You don't really have 66 cats, do you? See, I'm stuck in the USA. You don't really have 66 cats, do you, Gypsy? RC says, "Oh, cool. My granddad was a Prince Hall Freemason. Lots of them in South Carolina. Yeah, my father's a Prince Hall Mason. RC. Like I said, I thought of doing it like 10 years ago, but I was like, yeah. I mean, I've already did my fraternity stuff back in college. I'm really not trying to join another like Greek well, not Greek, well, another secret organization in my 30s. Now I'm in my 40s, but it's like unless it has some sort of like benefit to it, like it was going to help me with some sort of like business stuff that I had what I was like planning on doing. And since I couldn't do so, then eh. Plus, my father didn't seem like he was really going to try to sponsor me. He was just like, yeah, he said, yeah, talk to some people. And he said, but, you're going to pay this $200 initiation fee, yada, yada, yada. Eh, I'm, I don't know. If there was some sort of tangible benefit I could see from doing so now, I would. But this would have been something more for me to have done back in my 20s. But yeah, there's a lot of Prince Hall Masons, and there's a sister. There's a sister organization to the Prince Hall Masons too, right? RC, I think they're called the Seven Sisters or something like that. So maybe you might want to consider that. I think they're called the Seven Sisters, if I'm not mistaken. Gypsy says I googled the ingredients in SSRIs. Docs tried to prescribe me. They cause Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. The doc was trying to disintegrate my brain. I was livid after researching. Well, the thing, I don't know what you were diagnosed with, Gypsy, but SSRIs are not the only um, the antidepressants on the market. As a matter of fact, the more recent ones work better than SSRIs. Have you looked into Wellbutrin? Ask you know, the SSRIs are an older line of antidepressants, and they have they have started using better ones in recent years. Besides that, the the general problem with antidepressants, Gypsy, is that they have sort of a scattershot effect. Like they're not like they don't pinpoint problems because when it comes to psychiatric disorders, like we just don't know enough yet where we can pinpoint stuff the same way we can pinpoint medication to, like, say, liver disease or the kidneys or the heart and stuff like that. It's more of a scattershot effect across the brain that just helps things overall. But for some people, they are resistant to antidepressants. They don't work for them. Um, some people might have to do like mild electroconvulsive therapy. Um, or if they have a more mild to moderate depression, they can they can use cognitive therapy in place of any sort of medication. Cognitive therapy has been shown to be just as effective and sometimes more effective in the treatment of anxiety disorders and depressive disorders, which are mild to moderate. But for the moderate to severe, then you're probably going to need some sort of medication. Or at the worst, for the people who suffer from severe depression, medication doesn't work for them at all. Like they have to probably use some sort of ECT or electroconvulsive therapy. Um, Thing first says LOL at wavy hashtag free butt cheeks. Pause. He said, "What's up, chat? Peace, fam. What I miss, G." Not much. So I was saying the general topic today was just current events because so many things dropped on the air today on the news. So we lost John Amos, the father from Good Times. Like he's died in real life. Some people thought he was dead for real, but that man's been around for a long time. I think he was like 85 when he died, um, as they reported today. And we lost Chris Christopherson, who was an amazing actor in a bunch of movies. He's actually started off as a musician, and he served in the army. He was a ranger, and a captain in the U.S. Army. So shout out to him. On the positive side, Jimmy Carter, former president, just celebrated his centennial birthday. He's 100 years old. Um, and of course, we just had the presidential debates that just went off. Um, and I don't think too many people are excited to see the debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. They're both uncharismatic people. They at least they, I mean, at least they had more coherent talk between them, but they're not very charismatic. Then the other thing was the big shore strike that went on today. But I think the biggest thing in the news, and then also there's some stuff going on the border right now. But the biggest news was that Iran attacked Israel with like about 200 ballistic missiles, and now uh, Prime Minister Netanyahu was saying he's going to retaliate against Iran and show them. He's going to make them pay for what they did. Meanwhile, Iran is saying these missiles are just the beginning, and the White House is currently deliberating on how what they want to do in response to this, which is opening up the Middle East to like a more global war that could potentially kick off if we get involved on the ground. We got Israel, then we got Hezbollah from Lebanon, we got Iran, uh, we got these Houthi pirates in Yemen off the coast fighting our Navy and Coast Guard. Um, you know, it's a serious issue. This could potentially turn into a world war. So that's what's going on. So I've been trying to gather people's thoughts about that, but you know how these live streams go. People have other things they bring up. Jefferson says I saw Freemason videos. They marry little boys. No, they don't. They do not live. The, the Freemason, the American Freemason orders are law-abiding citizens. One of the things you have to do to be a Freemason is to be a law-abiding citizen. That is that is something that you're into a lot of conspiracy type stuff. I see, but you have to be a law-abiding citizen to be even considered to join one of the Freemason orders. So that's definitely not true. They wouldn't practice any sort of pedophilia. You said they drink from a skull. You should hear stories plenty out there on YouTube. You've been watching too many Indiana Jones. uh, Gaurav Kumar says, "How are you? I'm doing well." Gaurav. Gypsy is my BFF. I live with. His dad was a Freemason for a minute, but does don't didn't want any part of it and won't talk about it. Maybe, or maybe he wasn't considered appropriate for membership. There's gonna be things that can keep you from being considered a member. Being if you have criminal background, you're not gonna be accepted. Um, if you don't have if you don't have a belief in God, you're not gonna be accepted. Um, you know, these things can keep you from becoming one, or they find out there's stuff in your background that they don't like about you. They may not accept you. So he might just be salty about one of those things. And he's not telling the full truth about why he wasn't accepted to be a member. Gypsy says presidents are not good people. Um, yeah, some of them aren't. Presidents have been good, some have been bad, depending on what we mean by good or bad. But they're people like the rest of us. They're flawed. Presidents are flawed people. That's why. That's why I said yesterday and in multiple other occasions, people shouldn't put presidents on pedestals. Um, T and Freemason says it's not two words; it's Freemason. One word. Got yeah. I I get it. Who controls the secret of Mars? Who keeps Steve Gutenberg a star? We do. We do. Gypsy says on a good note, RC is so pretty. I haven't seen her profile because I'm only looking at it from my vertical live stream, but some of the fellas have said that she's very pretty. So I'm surprised if people haven't shoot that shot at her already. Oh, Gypsy says I know what excuse me what risperidone is. That's the medicine I researched that the BITCH prescribed me. uh, I don't know what your like what sort of diagnosis you received, Gypsy, and you definitely don't have to reveal it here. I would just say yes. Prescribing clinicians can make mistakes. That's for sure. I would not doubt that because I've been, I've experienced that. But and it's good that you do research stuff on your own. But I, the only thing I was saying was that risperidone isn't an SSRI. Those are two different classes of psychoactive drugs. That's all I was saying. Life says Freemasons are nice people. Yeah, most of the ones I've met, like I said, my father's one. Well, he's not a nice person, but that's a whole different story. One of my, you know, a few of my college buddies, they're uh, Prince Hall Freemasons. Nice people. He actually The funny thing is, he actually became a Prince Hall Freemason before he became an alpha, or Alpha Phi Alpha um, fraternity incorporated. Like it was like, but yeah, he became a Prince Hall Mason before he became an Alpha. Usually it's the other way around. Usually people join the Greek lettered organizations, and then they go off and become like Freemasons or join other secret societies afterwards. But yeah, most of the ones whom I've known outside of my father, who's an asshole, are pretty cool people. Gypsy says pharmakeia is sorcery. Doctors are indoctrinated. She doesn't need medication. She really does. Abba was clearly disturbed. The stuff she said was incoherent, and it was a sign of help. It was like a sign that she needs help, and I told her she shouldn't be online. So that's why I timed her out. Gypsy says everything we need comes from a seed. The human body is organic. We are not born to consume chemicals. Well, everything organic is a chemical, Gypsy. That's the root of organic chemistry. Like that's what they for people who go into, like become biology majors or specifically pre med. That's your first weed out class right there. Is organic chemistry. Like everything carbon based is organic chemistry. Like so, we're all chemicals. Rusty O'Crow says name a person for an edit. I don't know what that means. You said that before, or someone like you said it before. I don't get what that means. But yeah, Gypsy says no lizards and latex coming. Wait, what? Hold up. Let me back up here. France has a nuclear toxic area that won't be cleared up for 700 years. I haven't heard of that in France. See, I just saw that mini doc last night. I do spend $66,000 in 3 years just on food, not including every other necessity. RC says, thank you, Jenna. She says, no lizards and latex coming in his home. House is 3 stories high and 7,000 square feet long. Cleaning is nonstop. And she says, you're welcome to RC. She says, I have PTSD and all I need is weed. Yeah, I mean, I've seen weed prescribed for people who suffer PTSD, but risperidone means that you are also having some for you having for people who are having uh, some psychotic disorder as well. Risperidone won't be typically prescribed unless like you're suffering some sort of psychotic disorders as well. I don't know what they prescribe for PTSD, to be honest. Often I would think it would be like some sort of anti-anxiety or antidepressant. Again, Wellbutrin acts both as an anti-anxiety drug and a antidepressant, and sometimes is used to help people wean them off of smoking cigarettes. Um, oh, that's another person who died. Thank you, multifaceted. He says R.I.P. to Dikembe Mutombo. Dikembe's, I don't know if there's a heaven or not, but if so, he's probably up there right now and blocking everybody's shots like, not in my house. So RIP to the GOAT, Dikembe Mutombo. That's from my era of the NBA. So RC says Andrew Gallium was the mayor of Tallahassee. He ran for governor against Ron. If it came out he was by and did drugs in some hotel room, but I still think he was presidential. He had charisma. Oh, that was what's gonna hurt him right there. Um, Floyd says my great grandmother died. Do you have anything to make me feel better? Dude, just remember the good times you had, with your grandma. And if that doesn't work for you, I would suggest maybe hitting the gym. That it might make you feel better. Um, Gypsy says, I don't believe in government and don't believe in medicine. I just hug the trees, save the bees, and a slave to the kitties. Just a naturalist. Yeah, well, if that works for you, that's cool. She said, sorry for your loss, Floyd. Just try and think of all the wonderful memories you had with her. I never even had a grandmother. Us, you were so fortunate to have another. Sending love and hugs. Um, RC says, we're still sending money to our Ukraine. The world is going to bankrupt us. I know. Well, that's one of the things Trump will put it into. Like, and the funny thing is, my very first video I ever done for YouTube on this channel was basically me saying F Ukraine. And I still say it now, F Ukraine. I mean, forget about them. Bunch of Nazis. Anyway, um, Floyd says the man, thank you. I just wish I could do more, and but as I almost died from cancer, ones don't know what to do uh with myself. I don't know what to do with myself. Like I said, bro, when you're in that state, this this is motivation to hit the gym or start some MM or maybe start taking some like MMA or boxing lessons, something like that. For guys, we feel better when we put our bodies under stress. This is why psychotherapy is less effective for men generally than it is for women because we don't talk things out. We like to work things out physically. Um, but like I said, outside of like holding on to those good moments with your grandmother, because I've had a similar experience myself. Uh, 7, 8 years ago. Um, I would say, you know, do something productive, and they'll have you feeling better. Use their sadness as a motivation in the gym. Go if you don't have a gym membership, get a gym membership. Um, or take some lessons at the local MMA or jujitsu place near you. If you can't afford either for whatever, because you having a financial hardship, then just put on a pair of sneakers and go for a jog in the morning. Things will brighten up eventually. And again, for guys, tend we tend to feel better when we're working out physically. Oh, Keon says we can't hear you. I'm sorry, Keon. Multifaceted says the sound is good. Thank you, multifaceted. Keon might be just trolling. I thought you guys couldn't hear me because I was talking too softly. But I'm about to go soon anyway. Because like I said, I did 6 hours yesterday, so I'm not gonna repeat that mistake again. Gypsy says I don't mind revealing her diagnosis. I had just watched a documentary on MIT Dragonfly robots on YouTube and mentioned it to another patient in waiting room in a another patient in the waiting room of the doctor's office. She said then she tried to say I was schizoaffective, but the BITCH wouldn't watch YouTube video about the MIT bots. Well, honestly, I don't blame her. YouTube research is not a good way of finding out things. There's a lot of misinformation on YouTube and on social media platforms. I wouldn't trust that's I wouldn't trust YouTube. Like, there's a running joke about people who do their YouTube research, right? Like that's not considered very serious amongst people who are within who who are um invest invested in being in rational outcomes. YouTube is considered a very um a very misinformative place. Sorry. So yeah, if I was a doctor, I wouldn't even pay attention to someone showing me some random YouTube video because there's too many quacks on YouTube. Everyone with a camera can put something online and talk from a point of authority, even though they don't know what they're talking about. And yeah, if she was diagnosing you with schizoaffective disorder, that would probably make sense why she was recommending a prescription of risperidone, because they're not going to typically do that just for PTSD. Schizoaffective disorder is like a person with both um, schizotypal schizotypal symptoms and mood and depressive symptoms. So it's as much is as much a mood disorder as it is a thought disorder. So I can kind of see where that person was going. Gypsy says I'm 49. I know my body and mind better than anyone. What works for me. Most people are probably the least. uh, We're as individuals, we're the most unqualified to know what's actually going on with our own bodies. Unfortunately, except for like pains and feelings and stuff like that. Aside of the pains that we've experienced or the feelings that we experience, we often don't know what's going on internally with us that are the causes of these pains and the feelings we have. Um, Gypsy says there's nothing for PTSD, trazodone for nightmares. That's about it, and I don't take chemicals. Philanthropist says hello, brother. Dominique says hi. What's up, Dominique? Gypsy says it was from MIT. Even if it's supposedly from MIT, that doesn't mean it was relevant to what your situation was. A, a, a clinician has a set of diagnostic criteria in which to make this a decision on a person's um, diagnoses and possible prognosis for that disorder. They're not going to consider what comes from a YouTube video, even if it's from MIT, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge. It doesn't matter. That's kind of irrelevant to the way they're going to do their diagnostic criterion. Philanthropist says, "What's wrong with MIT? There's nothing wrong with MIT philanthropist. I wish I went there." What I was saying is it's irrelevant to a clinician making a decision to someone in their office. Like that's not if you're in someone's office, like you saying, "Hey, why don't you watch this YouTube video I saw from someone at MIT?" Like no doctor's going to do that. That's not how it works. I mean, that's like you don't go you don't go to the steakhouse and then show them Gordon Ramsay making charcuterie and say, can you do this like that? Like, no, the steakhouse is their own prescribed way of making food. They're not going to look at some video of Gordon Ramsay cooking meat and say, okay. Gypsy says, well, all the doctors were misinformed. Medicine is witchcraft. Jim says, hi. Philander says, Jenna, chill. He said, I don't know. Jim says, the moderators tried to win, but JD took it. Well, I didn't really catch it, Jim. Well, I was watching it, but I wasn't really paying attention because I was in the midst of the live stream. It seemed rather boring, but I did know that CBS said they weren't going to do any fact checking. They were going to leave that to the candidates. So I'm just going to catch the highlights tomorrow, whatever they may be. But in the meantime, guys, it's 2:03. I'm about to go because we didn't really talk about any of the major current events that happened today other than the debate. Like someone brought up the shoreline strike, so that was an issue. So I'm glad someone brought that up, but no one's really brought up the biggest topic of today, which was the Iran missiles on Israel and how this is threatening to become a world war. Um, so anyway, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it, bro. Like, if you come in tomorrow, I'm probably gonna have more insights on the debate. But since I was watching it while I was live streaming, I couldn't really pay attention. Plus, it they honestly neither the VP candidates seem too exciting. Like I said, Tim Walz looks like a third rate version of Bernie Sanders, and JD Vance is like, oh, I'm from the rural area. But I'm a billionaire. So I don't know. So I'll have more to say about it tomorrow. Lou says moderators didn't try to do anything. JD didn't take it. He couldn't even admit that Trump lost the election. I don't know. We'll definitely hash it out tomorrow. But I usually save the discussion for the debates the the day the day after so that we can actually get into it. Jim says Iran tipped off Israel. Yeah, but there's still going to be retaliation. And then Iran is talking trash like this is just the beginning of their attacks on them. And now the White House is saying, all right, they're currently the White House is currently debating what they're going to do. They probably already decided, but we're not going to know until way after the fact. But I'm pretty sure our boys in SOCOM are already out there. Philanthropist says, oh yeah, I have to ask, are you a Trump supporter or Kamala? I'm just curious. I won't get political. Appreciate it. Well, I do support Trump. I I'm but I'm not a Republican nor am I a Democrat. I'm an independent, not conservative. What you call the classical liberal, which some people consider conservative, whereas others consider on the left. It depends. But classical liberals aren't like American liberals, and they're not like American conservatives. We're more closer to libertarians, but um, those are my views. And as far as why I support Trump, again, I think he'll be better for the economy. Um, I think he'll be stronger in issues on national security, including the crisis at the Mexican American border. Um, and I resent the fact that the Democrats are trying to use identity politics to to um, to shame black people into voting for someone who's arguably not even black, and even if she were, doesn't have anything on her agenda which would help black Americans. So for me it's a clear choice. So those are my political biases. um all right, Jim C, my man. Tax Max is, what are we talking about, the war? Well, we can, but not today because I'm gonna go. But you guys can definitely feel free to hash it out in the comment section if you like. Um, Jim says I'm independent, conservative, not Republican. Yeah, I think more people are moving to becoming independent, Jim, just because I think a lot of people are tired of the ideologies on both sides. I think that's going to become more common in the future. I think you're going to see a lot less registered Republicans and registered conservatives. I mean, sorry, registered Republicans and registered Democrats. I think you're going to see a lot of people who are um, choosing to go independent. What's the book behind you? This one is the Bible, if that's the one you're talking about. This one is also a Bible. It says New NIV. I think NIV was that sounds says what's that stand for? New Interpretation Version, or and KJV, which is King James Version, paral- Parallel Bible. But these aren't my books. This is my grandmother's place, so these are all her literature. You guys will see my place soon. I will be going back to my old place within a few days. Well, one of my places, not my actual place in the Philippines, but my place here in Maryland. So this was always a temporary thing. Philanthropist says, all right, I gotcha. I think the same. Actually, I'm libertarian, like my president. See the sign says, what's up, blood? Not a blood, but I get it. um, Philanthropist says, my president is Javier Milei. I'm Argentinian. Okay. New international version. Thank you, Young Juice. I knew it was something like that. I couldn't think of it. Sorry. I actually prefer the King James version, not because I think it's more to the truth, but I like the King James version is more in Shakespearean language. Well, I should say Elizabeth. It's written in Elizabethan English, and it makes it more poetic. However, the problem is you need to understand some of the Elizabethan English idioms to understand to get into the King James version, which most people don't know unless it's broken down to them either in sermons, or if they actually go into like some sort of seminary school or something like that. But in any case, it is late for me, and I want to do like a little late night run, guys. So I'm gonna check you guys later. If you have any other comments or questions, though, you don't have to stop here. You can definitely leave it in my comment section, and I'll respond to them. Thank you again to Gypsy Jenna for talking to me and giving. Even though I may not agree with her on a lot of things, she was a very she was very friendly, so I appreciate it, and she was very forthcoming about her own struggles. So best to her, to RC as well. Guys, check out RC. Apparently, she's very pretty because I can't see from my from my vertical live stream. I'm seeing everything in miniature, but check her out. And if you guys got any questions, leave it in my comment section. And if you want to see all of this in its entirety, you can watch it on the replay. All right. Thank you. Check you later.